Oh, sabotage. Indiana Fever gets smacked by the LA Sparks by 14 points. Caitlin Clark being sabotaged by this trash-ass head coach, this trash-ass organization. Trade her already. Just trade her.
3 minutes and 10 seconds. That's the longest stretch Caitlin Clark stayed on the floor tonight, and Fever fans are already calling it something far worse than a rough shooting night.
This garbage, bro. I'm sick of watching this stuff. She was sabotaged today. The most she played was 3 minutes and 10 seconds at one time. That is sabotage. It's malpractice. There was no point in her even playing today if this is the plan. I'm sick.
Malpractice, sabotage. Those are the actual words trending on Fever Twitter right now. And once you hear the substitution pattern for yourself, you'll understand why the temperature is this high. 2 minutes in, then out. Sit on the bike, come back in, sit again. For a player who has always needed a rhythm to get her shot going, that in and out pattern is the single biggest flashpoint of this entire loss. But before anyone reaches for a word as heavy as sabotage, there's a piece of this story almost nobody brought up online tonight. And it changes the read on everything that follows. Stick around for it, because it's not what you'd expect.
You mean to tell me the bright idea, the huge reveal for the Indiana Fever, the plan for Caitlin Clark is we're going to play her for 2-minute spurts, and then we're going to take her out, and she's going to go sit on the bike for 15 minutes. Then we're going to put her in. She's going to play 2 minutes. Then we're going to take her out. She's going to go sit on the bike again. Like, dog, if this was the plan.
Picture it from the bench. You check in, get a live rep or two, and before your legs are even warm, the whistle blows and you're headed back to an exercise bike, pedaling through a dead sprint that goes absolutely nowhere. That's not how professional shooters find a rhythm, and it's not a controversial basketball opinion to say so out loud. Plenty of coaches around the league love a hard minutes cap for a player coming off an injury. Almost none of them chop those minutes into confetti the way Indiana did on Wednesday night. There's a real difference between limiting total playing time and limiting it in 60 to 90 second increments that never let a shooter get loose. One approach protects a player's body while still letting her play basketball. The other can leave a shooter cold for the better part of 48 minutes. Indiana ran the second version in Los Angeles, and the shooting numbers back it up. 4 for 12 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3. The real question isn't whether that hurt her rhythm. It obviously did. The real question is why the staff built the rotation that way in the first place. And that answer is coming.
Going to happen, man. This organization is malpractice. I'm sick of this shit. I'm over it. Pardon the language. I'm done. I'm done. Screw Stephanie White. Screw the Indiana Fever. Screw Amber Cox. Fuck them all. Fuck them all. I don't care. Pack them up. Just trade.
That kind of raw frustration is exactly what you'd expect from a fan base that watched its franchise player get hit hard by an opponent 2 weeks ago, disappear from the lineup entirely, and then come back Wednesday looking like a shell of herself. Head coach Stephanie White and general manager Amber Cox are catching all of it, because in professional sports, the front office and the coaching staff are always where blame lands first when a superstar looks miscast. It's worth saying plainly, though, there is no confirmed trade situation here. Nobody inside the Fever organization has floated moving Caitlin Clark, and no reporter with real sourcing on this team has backed that idea up either. What fans are actually reacting to isn't a real trade rumor. It's a feeling that the plan on the floor Wednesday night didn't make sense, and when a plan doesn't make sense, people go looking for someone to blame.
As they're building the team around Kelsey Mitchell can score the ball. I'm not taking away from Kelsey. She's a ball hog, but she can score. She had 29 today. She picked it up in the second half. She was shooting like 30% in the first half. Second half, she started lighting it up. I'm not taking away from her. Build the team around her and get rid of Caitlin Clark, please. So do the Stephanie White, Kelsey Mitchell thing and let them do their thing. Trade Caitlin.
This is the other idea circulating tonight, that Indiana should just build entirely around Kelsey Mitchell and move on from Clark. Mitchell earned that kind of talk with the second half she had. There's no argument there. But walk through what actually trading a healthy 23-year-old franchise cornerstone would mean for this organization. Clark is why Indiana sold out road arenas across the league last year for the first time in franchise history. She's why national networks keep flexing fever games into better broadcast windows. No front office trades away that kind of built-in audience over one ugly shooting night. And nothing in any credible report out of Indiana suggests that idea has gone past group chats and comment sections. The more grounded version of this conversation isn't Mitchell instead of Clark. It's whether a coaching staff can actually run offense through both of them without either one losing rhythm. And Wednesday night was not evidence that they've solved it yet.
It was 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, I get it. She's on a minutes restriction. If the minutes restriction was for Caitlin Clark to play 15 minutes, what is the point? What is the point? If she can't play at least 22, 23 minutes, there's no point in playing her. What's the point in playing her 15 minutes? It's no point.
Here's what actually happened, and it matters more than anything said online tonight. Clark didn't hide any of this. 2 days before the game, she told reporters herself that if she played against the Sparks, she'd be on a restriction, and she was hoping to land somewhere just over 20 minutes. She said that because she's still working back from a back injury she suffered 2 weeks earlier in Phoenix, when Mercury forward Alyssa Thomas hit her with a shot rough enough to draw a one-game league suspension. So the restriction itself wasn't some secret plan cooked up by a coaching staff trying to bury her production. It was a medical call, announced in advance by the player herself, days before tip-off. The Thomas play itself was serious enough that the league office reviewed it and suspended a player over it, which almost never happens for a regular season foul, and it's part of a bigger physicality debate that's followed the WNBA around all year. Thursday's game against Phoenix is actually the last scheduled meeting between these two teams this season, barring a playoff matchup. So there was real weight on whether Clark would even be available for it. What fans are genuinely angry about isn't that a restriction existed. It's how the minutes inside that restriction got used, in short, broken bursts instead of 1 or 2 longer stretches. And that part is a completely fair basketball critique that has nothing to do with any conspiracy.
Stupid. And I feel like this is sabotage to minimize her stats. The girl had 9 points today. 9 points and 3 assists. Her stats are about to tumble now. Bro, I think this is all calculated. They're trying to lower her stats. This is all sabotage, and it's ridiculous. This was an awful plan by the Indiana Fever.
9 points on 4 of 12 shooting, 3 assists, 4 turnovers. Those numbers are real, and nobody is disputing them. What's disputed is the word attached to them. Deliberately tanking a franchise player's stat line to make her look bad isn't a strategy any WNBA front office has an actual incentive to run. Clark is the single biggest reason Indiana led the entire league in both home and road attendance last season, and she's a massive part of why national broadcasts keep circling Fever games on the schedule. A quiet box score for her doesn't help ticket sales, it doesn't help ratings, and it doesn't help a front office that just spent a full year building a roster and a business around her. None of that means the substitution pattern was smart, because it clearly wasn't. It means the motive fans are assigning to it, actual malice, is almost certainly the wrong read. Bad process and bad intent can look identical on a stat sheet. They are not the same thing, and mixing them up is how a legitimate basketball criticism turns into an unfounded accusation.
And then, she gets benched in the fourth quarter. She gets benched after a turnover. Kelsey Mitchell never gets benched after her turnovers, ever. This is ridiculous, man. I am done with this team. I am done with this staff.
This is where the criticism gets a lot harder to wave away, because it's not really about minutes anymore. It's about trust. Clark turns the ball over once in the fourth quarter and comes straight out of the game. Kelsey Mitchell finishes the night with 4 turnovers of her own and never sees the bench for a single one of them. If you're a young star already fighting to find rhythm inside a chopped-up rotation, getting an instant hook while a veteran plays through her mistakes sends a message, whether the coaching staff intends it that way or not. Coaches build trust with players through repetitions, through letting them play their way out of a mistake instead of yanking them the moment one happens. Indiana keeps taking those repetitions away from its most important long-term asset in the exact moments she needs them most to actually develop.
I just want them to blow it up already. She's not even playing tomorrow. Why play her for if she's not playing tomorrow, why can't she just play today? It just doesn't make sense, man. This organization is backwards. They are upside down.
That specific question, why play her tonight at all if she's sitting out tomorrow, is actually one of the more reasonable ones being asked, so it deserves a real answer instead of just more outrage. Clark herself explained it going into the week. Coming off a 2-game absence, the only way to get game speed back is to actually play in a game. There's no replacing that in practice. Thursday's the second half of a back-to-back on the road, which is exactly the kind of stretch a medical staff wants to avoid for a player still working back from a back injury. So the plan was never play her big minutes both nights. It was get her some live reps tonight, then protect her legs completely tomorrow. Reasonable plan. The execution of tonight's half of it is still fair to question.
They're a joke. You got blown out, and I already know everybody's about to blame Caitlin Clark for the loss. Everybody's going to be blaming her. I'm already prepared for it. They're going to blame somebody. She was a -16. Now, I'm going to hold Caitlin accountable for this. I'm going to hold her accountable for this. She has some late game turnovers that were absolutely, I mean, not late game. She had what? I don't even know how, but she had what, 4 turnovers? 2 of them were her fault. I'll say
give the reaction some credit here too, because it isn't purely one-sided. Clark finished a team worst -16, and by her own admitted standard, 2 of her 4 turnovers were unforced, hers to own regardless of how the minutes were structured. In 16 total minutes, that's a genuinely rough professional night. Restriction or no restriction, but context still matters. Going 1 for 6 from 3 while getting pulled every 90 seconds is not the same kind of failure as a starter who gets a full first half to find her footing and still can't buy a bucket. Holding a player accountable for her own mistakes and understanding why a flawed plan set her up to struggle in the first place are 2 different conversations, and the strongest take on this loss has room for both at once.
She's in no rhythm. I'm not blaming her for 4 of 12. This ain't on Caitlin Clark. This is on the damn organization. This is on the head coach. This is on the head coach. Flat out, bro. Monique Billings was awful, but she did have 12 rebounds, but she wasn't good. Maisha Hines-Allen played 12 minutes. All zeros across the board, 2 rebounds. Horrible. Lexi Hall, 6 of 13, 14 points. She had a solid game. Kelsey Mitchell, 9 of 18, 5 of 9 from 3, 29 points. She had a good second half.
Zoom out from Clark for a second, because the final score says just as much as her box score does. 106 points allowed at home on a back-to-back for the Sparks, and every single Los Angeles starter finished in double figures. Ray Burrell, a role player having a career night, dropped 22 points on 9 of 15 shooting. Kelsey Plum wasn't even in the Sparks lineup, and Los Angeles still hung a season-high number on an Indiana defense that had no answers all night. That's not a Caitlin Clark problem. That's a team-wide execution problem, on a night where the head coach has to answer for a lot more than one player's substitution pattern. It also lands at a bad time. Indiana came into Wednesday sitting in playoff position in a crowded Eastern Conference race, the kind of position that can evaporate fast if losses like this one start stacking up. If you're looking for where the real accountability sits, it's less about how many seconds Clark spent on the hardwood, and more about how a defense with this much talent let a shorthanded opponent walk in and shoot over 40% from 3 without ever being made to work for it.
Look at this. Okay, Kelsey Mitchell smokes the layup. Monique Billings misses a layup. Lexi Hall, 4 feet away, misses. I mean, golly, y'all. I mean, damn. Come on, man. This team is terrible. I don't want to watch it. It is what it is. Like, I already know everybody's blaming Caitlin, man. It's unfortunate that
almost nobody throwing around the word sabotage online mentioned this part of the story tonight. Aaliyah Boston, Indiana's other All-Star, didn't sit out Wednesday as some strategic snub aimed at clearing the floor for a storyline. She was out with a confirmed right lower leg injury, announced by the team before tip-off, and the plan for Thursday night in Phoenix flips entirely. Boston is expected back in the lineup, and Clark is the one sitting this time, resting on the second night of a back-to-back exactly like she told reporters she would days earlier. That is not a coaching staff quietly hiding one guard to protect a favorite. That's a franchise juggling two separate injuries to two max-level talents in the same stretch of games, and losing basketball games in the process because neither star was fully available on the same night. It doesn't even stop there. Guard Sophie Cunningham dealt with back spasms before tip-off and still gutted out minutes, visibly moving gingerly for stretches of the night. This wasn't a roster protecting one player at the expense of another. It was a roster that was banged up nearly across the board, trying to get through a brutal stretch of the schedule in one piece. It's a far less satisfying story than sabotage. It also happens to be the one that's actually true.
They intentionally sat Aaliyah Boston out. She could have played today. But this is what happens when you don't respect the game. Stephanie White thought she could play Caitlin Clark 12, 13 minutes and not play Aaliyah Boston at all, and they could just walk in there and beat the Sparks, and they got their ass handed to them. That's what happens when you think you could just show up and beat on somebody. That's what happens. You got to respect the game. The LA Sparks handed your ass.
Where the criticism does still hold up is the game planning question, not the character question. Even accounting for two banged-up stars walking into Los Angeles and getting outscored by 14 against a Sparks team missing its own leading scorer is a legitimate strategic failure, and Stephanie White will have to answer for the rotation choices regardless of the injury context sitting underneath them. None of this is happening in a vacuum, either. Clark played through last season on a body that eventually broke down completely, a groin injury that ended her year before the All-Star break after she appeared in only 13 games total. That was a jarring shift for her personally, too. Across her college career, she never dealt with a significant injury and played every single game of her rookie pro season before last year's problems started piling up. Whatever plan the Fever are running this year, it's clearly being built by a staff that got burned once already by pushing her too hard. That's the real tension underneath everything fans watched Wednesday night. A franchise actively trying not to repeat last year's mistake, and in the process of avoiding it, stumbling into a brand new one.
This organization is a joke. Caitlin Clark, your brand, your reputation is being tainted by this organization, and you need to wake the hell up and see what's going on. You need to get the hell away from these people. You need to get away from here. You need to demand a trade. Where the hell is Aaron Kane? Can you do something for a change? Where the hell are you? Get Caitlin Clark out of this sabotaging organization with this bum of a coach. This is ridiculous. Caitlin Clark is just being sabotaged nonstop, man. I am disgusted. I am disgusted with what I saw today. What says you?
So no, this almost certainly isn't sabotage in the sense of a coaching staff plotting against its own franchise player. The evidence just doesn't support that read, and the actual reporting tells a much messier, much more human story about two stars managing two different injuries at the same time. But the anger from fans watching at home is still real, and it's real for a reason. Clark is the single biggest commercial engine women's basketball has had in a generation, and every minute she spends confused on a bench instead of building rhythm on the floor sends a ripple through the entire league, through ticket sales, through national ratings, through how her brand gets discussed by people who've never watched a full Fever game in their life. She sits out Thursday in Phoenix by her own account. Boston is projected to return, and Indiana gets a real measuring stick test in Las Vegas right after that back-to-back finally closes out. The bigger question was never really whether Wednesday's plan was executed well, because it clearly wasn't. It's whether Stephanie White and this coaching staff can actually turn two legitimate, overlapping injury situations into a rotation that works before the patience around this team runs out completely. So tell me where you actually land. Is this a coaching staff still figuring out how to build around two banged-up stars at once, or a program that's genuinely running out of answers? Get into the comments and make your case. Like this video if you made it this far, subscribe if you're new here, and share it with a Fever fan who needs to see the real story behind tonight's loss.